Good afternoon, everybody. Before we get started, just a couple things. I know probably most of you saw that a couple of Michigan State players tested positive for COVID. They are still planning on traveling this afternoon to Iowa City. There will be no more updates today. Both teams will be COVID testing tomorrow morning, just like every other game. So no more updates today. But as of right now, we plan on playing the game tomorrow. So we'll have Coach here in a second. Okay, Steve, we're ready when you are.
All right. Coach, good afternoon. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Gotcha, Steve.
All right. We'll go right into questions for Coach McCaffery. Raise your hand and we'll get started. Go ahead, Scott Dochterman.
Yeah, Fran, at what point in Connor's life, basketball life, did you recognize him to be a team first guy in how he performed on the court? Was it there all along? Did he gradually grow into that role? Or at what point did you see him maybe become that type of person that he is today?
You know, I think he kind of always had it in him. You know, you have heard me tell the story before, but he would always come to practice when he was in kindergarten, first grade, second grade. So he would watch film with me on weekends with the staff. He would come to all the film sessions. So that was sort of ingrained upon him for, you know, his middle school team, for his AAU teams as an elementary school aged athlete. He scored a lot more, but even then, you know, he moved it and made really good passes. But I think, you know, particularly when he went to play at West High for Coach Bergman, when he got there as a freshman, they were loaded up with talent, and he was the perfect fit for what they were trying to do. Get the ball to Wyatt, who was going to lead the state in scoring, and they had so many other talented players, David DeLeo, you know, Wally, Devontae Lane, I mean, Chike, I mean, they had so many good players. So he ran the offense for that team and engineered a state championship. So he's kind of always been that guy. And then his senior year, they moved him around a little bit more. He played a little bit more on the wing, and he guarded post guys, which I think gave me the confidence to do that last year when we started having injury situations that required us to kind of move him around. And it's great to have that kind of versatility from a guy who knows all the spots and understands how to win and understands that we have the best player in college basketball. Let's get him the ball, and we've got other great shooters, great players. And he's also been, I think, really good with our young guys. You know, obviously with his brother, he's been like that since they were little. But you know, with Keegan, with Tony, with Aaron, with Joe Toussaint, really does a terrific job as a leader.
You know, as a follow-up to that, I think I remember seeing Connor at a career day when he was probably in eighth grade at or eighth or ninth grade, and the thing he said he wanted to be was a coach. Do you think that's in his, that seems to be in his makeup? Do you see that as his future?
I think he would be a really good one. You know, I think he has prepared himself, you know, as a finance major. He's actually a double major now, finance and political science. You know, he had a 3.94 last semester. You know, he's on the dean's list. So he has the opportunity to enter the business world, I think, in a good place, perhaps go to law school. That's something he's talked about wanting to do. I think it would be hard for him to distance himself from the game. But again, I think you could have a very successful career in another field as well. So we'll see. Maybe he would stay around as a graduate assistant, kind of like Nicholas is doing now. We've had other guys, Kyle Denning, did that, and kind of get a feel for it. Maybe get his MBA. But it's nice to have options, I guess, and I think he would make a great coach. But to be truthful, I'm not sure his mother would encourage that career path.
Chad Lysico?
That was a funny ending there. This is your, statistically, I know the sample size is growing here, your best 3-point shooting team at Iowa. How important, I guess, can you explain, is that to the way you run your offense when you've got a 3-point shooting team like this?
Well, I think, the more 3-point weapons your team has, the harder you're going to be to guard, provided the group of individuals are unselfish and, as Scott pointed out in the previous question, team-oriented. When you have the best low post player in college basketball, you want to throw it inside. You want to get him the ball. But he's equally effective at the 3-point line, which creates opportunities for others to flash into the low post and post up or drive the ball into space that wouldn't be there if Luca was always there. So the other thing is when you have players coming off the bench who can also make threes. A lot of times you might have a couple 3-point shooters in your starting lineup, but you don't have 3-point shooters coming off the bench, which changes everything when you go to your bench. But, Patrick and Keegan and Jack can all hit threes. Joe has been a guy who could make some threes. He's not going to shoot as many, but he's capable, and so are Aaron, Tony, and Chris. So, I think moving forward, I think most coaches are going to try to recruit as many 3-point shooters as possible. When you think about the return on investment per possession, it makes a lot of sense. If you're going to the analytics side of things, shooting threes, provided they're open shots and you've moved it and you've made the defense work and you don't constantly settle, because if you do that, you're never going to be in the bonus. So there's got to be a mixture there. But having multiple weapons and not having the other team be able to focus on 1 or 2 guys is really helpful.
Mark Emmert?
Yeah, Fran, this is the first game that we know of that may be affected by the COVID situation. I guess, how much information are you getting about what's going on in other teams? And do you feel like you're getting enough information?
Yeah, we don't get a lot of information about other teams unless we're getting ready to play them. So, we were informed that there might be 1 or 2 guys out. There are. I hope they're doing well and getting better. But, as it relates to, say, Penn State and Nebraska, I suspect, Brad Floyd, our trainer, may know more, but, we're not playing those guys for a while. So they're on pause and probably expect them to be back off pause when we get ready to play them.
Mike Halas, go ahead.
And regarding Michigan State, what do you think is the key to a program having sustained excellence like they've had over decades now?
Well, I think there's a variety of things. Coach Izzo is a Hall of Fame coach. That is a good place to start. They've recruited well. They've had really good players. I think they play a style that is, I think, really good for the personnel that they have. They've always played fast, and they've always defended, and they compete hard. So, you put a great coach and really good players and a really good system and a team that competes and understands how to play, they're going to win a lot of games.
David Eicholt?
Yeah, Fran, whenever we talk to you guys about defense, you always talk about the team has to be so well connected on the defensive end of the floor. What's the formula for having a well-connected defense?
Well, first of all, you have to be committed to playing it, everybody that's out there. So if you have one guy who's sort of relaxing on defense to save his energy for offense, it won't work. And we're a team that changes defenses, so that's critical. What are we in? And let's make sure we're making appropriate slides. If we're in zone, if we're man, are we switching? Are we not switching? Are they running ball screen continuity? Are they running set plays? Or are they just dribble, draw, and kick? So it's a combination of factors that really is pretty simple. Is everybody down in a stance where they're supposed to be, competing defensively until we get the ball back?
Tom Kakert.
Hey, Fran, good afternoon. You guys are leading the country in assists per game and assist to turnover ratio. As a coach, how important is that to the success of a team, and how proud are you of your team to be number one in the country in that category?
You're very proud, but I think, if you were to ask all of our guys, they would sort of say, we expect that of ourselves. It helps when you're throwing the ball to Luca, but we got other guys making shots too, and he's passing the ball really well. He's really handled the double team. He's finding guys, and we don't have a selfish group. Taking contested shots. We're taking open shots as a result of the fact that we move it and we have individuals to find guys and are willing passers. So I think any coach would want to have those two stats that you're referring to, and it typically leads to way more wins than losses.
Scott Dochterman.
Yeah, Fran, along those lines, maybe if there's one component, one intangible that your team seems to possess now that very few teams do, is just patience in the passing. And that's being able to just wait that fraction of a second for things to open or to look. Is that specific to experience, unselfishness, everything? How do you quantify that as being kind of a positive quality in that part of your game?
I think it's a good point because, especially when you have a guy like Luca on your team, teams are going to be working hard to stop him. So if you are impatient and you move it before you give him a chance or before you give him a look, same thing with our shooters. You got to let it develop. You got to let it happen. You got to be properly spaced. You might have to pivot. You might have to take a dribble or two to get a better angle. And I think that does come with one of the things you mentioned was experience. We say we got a veteran club. Well, veteran clubs don't panic. You're going to see tremendous heat from Michigan State. They're going to be up in your space. And a lot of times that forces you to move it maybe sooner than you want to. But you got to wait and you got to get in a triple threat, or it's a one dribble kick, or you catch it and move it right away, or you go in and out, skip it to the other side, back in, back out. And it's a collective understanding of being patient and understanding what plays were called. Are we in motion? Are we in sets? Are we in a continuity offense? And consistently move the ball with a purpose while people are cutting and screening and posting with a purpose.
All right, we have another question from Mark Emmert. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, Fran, I wanted to ask you about Jordan, now that you've had him for 5 years. Obviously, he's always carried himself with a great deal of confidence, but where have you seen him improve the most in his time here, just in terms of his skill development?
Yeah, to me, he's kind of always been the same way. He's incredibly confident. He plays the game with a keen understanding of what's necessary. He plays the game with a swag that you need. He's always been a great shooter. He gets our break and what we're trying to run, and he gets time and score situations. So I don't know that there's been a huge change in him. He's kind of always been, he was that way in high school. He's that way here. He was that way when he was a young player. You think back, and I mentioned it, when we played Maryland. I mean, the performance he had at Maryland when they were honoring their national championship team, and it was a packed house. It was as loud as any building I've ever been in, and he drops 8 threes and loads Tyler Cook up on his way to 27, and he had only played about 14 or 15 college games, and that's what he does. So I haven't seen a big difference, and I think what makes him special is that he's always been consistent that way.
All right, one final question from Scott Docterman for Coach. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, Fran, when you were at Rutgers and Connor was injured early, and probably killed him to admit that he probably couldn't play. Could you see how difficult it was for him? And then conversely, at the very last seconds when he came back in, how did he what did he tell you that he could do that enabled him to come in for you?
Well, I think the great thing about that day, okay, once we knew he wasn't going to get back in there, all right, who's going to step up? Keegan stepped up in a big way. Patrick, Tony, and Aaron, and that was special. But and you guys have been in the buildings. There's nobody there, so there's a real sense of team and camaraderie and support of one another. So Connor was able to contribute by grabbing guys during timeouts, talking to them during timeouts, encouraging them. And then when the last play happened, I said this before, it wasn't even a thought of mine that I was going to put him in because, when a trainer tells you can't go, you can't go. But, the coaches and the players that coaches put Connor in, he doesn't have to move. He can inbound the ball, and they're going to foul right away. We can take them out, which is what we did. And I asked him, I said, can you do it? He said, yeah, I got it. And the guys worked hard to get open. We got the ball in. We got fouled. And now they have to go to length of the floor to beat us.
As far as self-awareness, I'm sorry, Steve, to interrupt. As far as self-awareness goes, he seems to be off the charts in that, where he doesn't hunt for shots. He looks for shots for everybody else. And if he's the best one on the floor, that's great. If anybody else is, that's even better. How different is that to have somebody so self-aware on the floor of his strengths, maybe his weaknesses, but then everybody else's strengths and weaknesses on probably both teams?
Yeah, it's absolutely critical that you have players that understand that concept that you're referring to. What are my strengths and weaknesses, and how can I help my teammates be the best that they can be? And that comes with being patient, understanding the offense inside and out, understanding how to play more than one position, understanding time and score, home versus road, the scouting report, the adjustments we make throughout the course of the game, and truly understanding what are we trying to accomplish when we come out of a timeout, what are we trying to accomplish coming down the stretch, and the impact that has on settling everybody else down is crucial to a team's success over the course of 40 minutes.
All right, thank you for your time, Coach.
Appreciate it, guys.
We'll get to Luca Garza next. All right, Luca, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, thanks for joining us. We'll go ahead. As you have questions for Luca, please raise your hand. We'll get started. Go ahead, David Eicholt.
Yeah, Luca, what stands out about Michigan State, just teams, not maybe this one specifically, but what are some common characteristics that you see of Izzo's teams, and does this one kind of fit that same mold?
I think you're getting from Michigan State when you play them. They're going to be one of the most physical teams, one of the most aggressive teams, a team that always pushes it in transition, and just a team that prides himself on being the tougher team and winning the war on the board. So we know going into this game, we need to be able to rebound. We need to be able to be tough and work through the physicality.
Chad Leistiko.
Hey, Luca, I know you worked a lot on your three-pointer in the offseason. I guess just how proud of you are you that you're at like 49% right now from three, and what changed, I guess, from last season?
I think I just continue to work on my consistency and my confidence, just getting a lot of reps up. And, I think, last year there were stretches where I shot the ball at a really, really high level. And then I had some games where I didn't shoot it as well. So I'm just trying to be more consistent. And I'm definitely happy with where it's at. But I wanted to continue to go up, and I want to continue to, keep making shots and raise it even more.
Tom Kakert?
Hey, Luca, how much better of a passer are you this year? It seems like even just during the season, you've kind of gotten a better feel for the double teams. And how's that evolved?
Yeah, definitely. I think, that's something that, the whole coaching staff has been working with me, a lot, ever since, kind of last year when I really started to, get double teamed at this level. I think, in the off season, I was watching a ton of film, of last year, and then looking at different spots where I could attack the double team better. And that's kind of, translated to during in season, every game, there's clips about, me handling the double team, when I can find guys, when I can go for myself. So I've just, grown to be better and better at it. I've worked on it a lot in practice. And, when you're getting double teams, every single day, whether it's in pickup in the off season, in practice, in games, you get better with it through experience. And, I've been getting doubled a lot. So I'm definitely learning how to be better with it. And I'm going to continue to be better, as we continue to go forward.
Mark Emmert?
Yeah, Luca, you've played with Jordan Bohannon for 4 years now. I guess, is this the best you've ever seen him play this recent stretch? And if so, what's he doing exceptionally well right now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've seen, Jordan have some, unreal moments. And he's definitely, playing at that level, if not better right now. And it's great to see, we all know that he's that type of player. But, even, my sophomore year, some of the shots he would hit, when we played Indiana at home or Northwestern, I was just, amazed. And so it's been a pleasure to play with a guy like that. And I look forward to continuing to, play with him and just, make some memories.
Grant Becker?
Luca, I think over the years, we've seen this Michigan State team take a couple lumps early in the season and then kind of they get rolling once Big Ten play comes around. It's a little bit uncharacteristic to see them lose 4 out of 6 at a point like this kind of after Christmas. Do you think this is just another Michigan State team that'll get better as the season goes along, or are they a little bit behind some of the Michigan State teams you've seen in your time at Iowa?
Honestly, I think this Michigan State team is really, really, really good. I've watched them all year. I think they've had some tough losses. You lose a game at the buzzer to Purdue, a game they kind of won, and it just kind of slipped out of their hands. I don't think it's, I think this team is going to be really, really good for the rest of the year. And, they can beat anybody in our league. And, I have full confidence in that. And you can say that about a lot of teams in the Big Ten, but, I definitely think this Michigan State team is very good. And so, I'm excited for the matchup. And we know what this Michigan State team is. People may say otherwise, but, we know this team is a great team, and they're going to be good for the rest of the year.
David Eichholt?
Yeah, Luca, when we ask you guys about defense, you always talk about how connected and how important it is to be connected. But what makes a well-connected defense? What kind of factors go into that? And what are some of the most important things to being a well-connected defense?
And I think first, everybody has to be, bought in to the defensive end. I think everybody has to be playing hard. I think everybody has to be communicating and talking. When we're talking and we're aware of what's going on, away from the ball, when we're opposite, whatever the case may be, if you're aware and you're talking, that makes it a connected group, and we need to be that, for every game for the rest of this year, but especially this game with some of the guys they have, we have to be really connected.
Scott Dochterman?
Yeah, Luca, you guys lead the country in assists and assist to turnover ratio, and those are everybody's stats, from those who score to those who pass to spacing the floor and everything. How much do you guys take pride in that? Not only being able to score in your case and most of the time, but just for everybody being able to share in those types of statistics that are so vital to winning.
You know, we're an extremely unselfish group. You know, I've said that, you know, a lot over the course of me being here. But we're a very unselfish group. We move the ball around. We're trying to get the best shot down every single time. You know, we're not really an ISO team. You know, it's not like guys are just, you know, going and getting theirs. You know, we're moving the ball around and finding the best shot every single time down. And we have some guys that can, you know, make plays in ISO situations. But, you know, for the most part, we're a team that moves the ball, pushes the ball in transition, and like I said, our purpose on offense is to get the best shot possible. And sometimes that's me. You know, sometimes I'm getting doubled and I got to throw it out. You know, sometimes it's just, you know, one more to the corner or whatever the case may be. We're finding the best shot. So, you know, for us, you know, we expect to be a great passing team, and we've been that way. You know, even my freshman year, we were, you know, in the tops of the country in those kind of statistics in terms of assist to turnover and assists on, you know, field goals and all of that. But, you know, I think, you know, our defense has improved tremendously since then, but, you know, our offense has also improved.
All right, time for just a couple more here with Luca. Mike Kloss, go ahead.
Hi, Luca. I understand, and if I heard this wrong, correct me and we'll move on, but that the upheaval in Washington last week prevented family members from seeing you out there. Is that true? And do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. You know, that's true. My mother got tested for COVID, so she could come see me. And obviously there was a curfew in my area and in DC, so she couldn't come out to see me. But obviously that wasn't the most upsetting thing about that day. You know what was happening in our country was, you know, a lot worse. And so, you know, I understood. You know, obviously it sucked, but, you know, there were worse things going on. And, you know, I was just thankful we were able to play and get through that. But, you know, it was definitely upsetting. And you never want to see that, you know, especially in my city. I never want to see something like that. And that's upsetting. And obviously not being able to see my family is also upsetting. But, you know, it's just, you know, how it is. You know, with COVID, it wouldn't have been even the same of seeing my family. You know, I'd be wearing a mask and they'd be 6 feet away. And so it's not the same either way. But, you know, we all understand, you know, what it is, you know, to play in a pandemic.
And our final question for Luca. Go ahead, Chad.
Following up on the 3-point conversation, you guys' percentage as a team is significantly up over last year. What do you attribute that to?
You know, I think ball movement. I think we move the ball really well. You know, I think it helps when you get one of the best shooters of all time, you know, in Iowa history to come back. So I think that definitely helps. And, you know, I think moving the ball and just being an unselfish group, you know, I think we're a really good shooting team, and we've known that for a while. And, you know, last year we had at certain points with injuries or whatever, we didn't have as many shooters on the floor as we do this year. And so it's really nice to have those guys, you know, back and, you know, and everybody's confident. I think Coach has done such a great job of instilling confidence in his shooters. You know, if you're missing, you know, Coach is going to keep coming to you, and he knows that, you know, it's going to drop. So, you know, that's a big thing is when you're playing on offense and you know you have the green light to shoot an open jumper, you know, your confidence is so different to that shot. You know, some guys, you know, in other programs may be afraid to take shots or whatever, but, you know, the way Coach McCaffery coaches us, it allows us to have confidence every time we step into a jumper, because he knows we all put the work in the off season. So, you know, I'm glad, you know, everyone on this team has been, you know, able to knock them down, and hopefully we can continue to do that.
All right. Thank you, Luca, for your time today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Jordan, good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Get on my shot, coach.
All right, here we go. Questions for Jordan. Raise your hand and we'll get started. Go ahead, Mark Emmert.
Hey, Jordan, obviously those last 4 games for you has maybe been the best of your career. I guess what prompted this turnaround for you after the Minnesota game? Did you do a little soul searching there, or what happened exactly?
I just kept playing basketball. I think that's been my mindset, going forward this entire season. I kind of realized that I'm not going to be 100%, physically, mentally, right from the get-go off this season, because I really haven't played, a healthy game in 1.5 to 2 years. So I knew I wasn't just going to be able to be off and running to start. I felt like I was playing okay to start the season, and I just kept playing, and shot wasn't falling. Shots were going in and out, and just wasn't shooting as good as I knew I could. So I just kept, playing and kept having confidence like I always do. And, everything I've been doing this past 1.5 to 2 years finally is starting to pay off.
Chad Leistico.
Hey, Jordan. I know it's the sleeve, right? But anyway,
Definitely the sleeve. Definitely.
Okay. Can you kind of describe what happens on the floor when you guys have, basically 4 or 5 3-point shooters, Luca, yourself, CJ, Joe are a great starting point, obviously, for defenses, and what challenges that presents?
Yeah, I mean, when you have pretty much anyone on the floor that can, hit the open three, it just creates so much room for everyone to drive the paint. And Luca's able to have single coverage half the time. And sometimes last year, I think that was kind of a struggling point towards the end of the year, because people kept double teaming Luca, and there's just a lot of clogging in the paint. And I think this year we're starting to, learn more about spacing, and Luca's doing a really good job about finding people. But when you have multiple guys shooting 40+% from 3-point range on top of Luca, able to step out and shoot that high number out on the 3-point line, I think that just creates so much problems for the other team to try to guard us. And we don't really we run sets, but we really just run motion, and you can't really scout when you are playing against a motion offense. So I think that's what's been pretty special about us, is we're locked into this offense and willing to keep passing up good shots to get great shots.
Mark Emmert.
And Jordan, I wanted to ask you about the kind of the edge that you play with. Does that come from like being the youngest of the Bohannon boys, or being the shortest, or how much of that is, I guess, a product of your upbringing?
Yeah, that's definitely a product of my upbringing for sure. But I think what has been the most thing for me is just the amount of people that have doubted me my entire life. And when you have 3 older brothers play Division I basketball, they're like, all right, maybe the 4th one's not going to be as good. And I mean, there definitely were people saying that I could be up to that potential that my brothers were playing at. But even when I got to Iowa, there's so many people that are doubting me that there's no reason why he should be on the court. And I feel like I proved myself when I first got here. And then it's just been an uphill battle ever since, from my mindset, just because every time I step on the floor, I want to continue to prove myself. And maybe I got away from that a little bit when I was earlier this season, just trying to get my feet back under me. But I feel like I kind of gathered that mentality again, and realized that I still have a lot to prove, and I still expect myself to be the best point guard in the country when I step foot out there, and I feel like I am.
Tom Kakert.
Jordan, you jumped over Mike Zell and Dean Oliver after last game. You got Andre Woolridge in your sights. You probably got Jeff Horner in your sights. What is that? We've talked a lot about the 3-point stuff, but what does that assist march mean to you?
I always said this. So the assist means more to me than the 3-point record. Even the Big Ten 3-point record, if I'm able to get to that assist record, means more to me, just because that shows, how unselfish I've been able to, find open guys. And, I've had a lot of high assist numbers and a lot of great people that I play with that I got to give credit to, that, I'm loading them up and doing everything I can to, make sure they're getting open shots and getting their flow going. So the guys I'm passing, I mean, it's just even hard to even put into words. The guys that I've looked up to when I got here, guys that, have meant so much to me, and how they played for this university, and how much they've meant to this community and the city and the state. It's been a huge blessing for me. And I can't thank the guys enough for, the guys that came before me that helped me out to get my feet under me to make sure I can play at this level. And it's just a true blessing.
Grant Becker.
Jordan, I think when you compare this Michigan State team to the ones that you've seen in your time at Iowa, you have to go back to the team your freshman year that's had a stretch like this where they've lost 4 of 6. Do you think this is just a tough stretch and that this is just another Michigan State team that can go all the way in the tournament, or are they a little different than some of the Michigan State teams you've seen?
No, it's the same Michigan State team. If I were to guess, they'll probably be in the Final Four this year. I mean, you guys might think I'm crazy, but it's Coach Izzo, and they always find a way to get to the Final Four. I don't know the exact stat, but I'm pretty sure every 4 years there's been a Michigan State team in the Final Four. So that proves the ability that they're able to play at, the guys that Coach Izzo recruits, and they always pride themselves on being the tougher team. And we have to understand that no matter what they've done in the last couple of games and who they've lost to, who they've beaten, that it doesn't matter that, I haven't beaten Michigan State since I've been here. We've been close a bunch of years and let us slip away. So that's definitely on my mind. And we can't take what they've done and what they haven't done for granted, and just have to play up to our potential.
All right, our last question for Jordan comes from Mike Halas. Go ahead, Mike.
Hi, Jordan. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm all right. Who, I mean, the players you just alluded to that you've passed on that chart, who in particular were heroes of yours and why?
I mean, Jeff Horner is a guy I can't even put into words, watching him play and him pulling up from the logo half court. I mean, he did it a bunch of times. I mean, how he was able to handle the team and his leadership on the court. It's just someone that I've always kind of modeled my game after. I've obviously taken a lot of different facets from different guys across, my generation of playing basketball. But I mean, he's one guy that I've always looked up to. I mean, same thing with Matt Gaines, passing him a 3-point record, and, chasing Jeff Horner again for that 3-point record. I mean, it's just, there's so many. Jeff Horner was just someone that I always looked up to, and his game just felt like I could model after when I got to Iowa, and everything that he did for this state, on and off the court, and everything he continues to do to represent his alum school. So, it's like I said, it's a huge blessing for myself to even give in consideration with these names. And I'm going to do everything I can to, keep helping my team win, but also got to be really thankful for, the guys that I'm passing on these records.
All right. Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead. We'll get to Connor for a few minutes before he has to get to team meeting. Hey, Connor, thanks for joining us. You hear me okay?
Yep, I gotcha.
All right. Scott Document, go ahead with your question.
How are you, Connor?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. When did you become kind of the team first guy that you are? Was it when you started playing for Bergie at West? Were you that before that, or was it when you got to Iowa?
I feel like it's something that started, long ago in growing up. I've always just kind of tried to pride myself in being somebody who makes the right play, regardless of the situation, regardless of who's around me. And I think that, like you alluded to with Bergie, I came in as a freshman and I was on a really good team, had a lot of guys around me, always tried to make the right play. And then I tried to carry that through high school and on now into college as well. So it's just been kind of my game, and I try to pride myself in it.
Looks like you play with a lot of patience out there. I think I saw a couple of times, even on Sunday, where you maybe made a pass that was better simply because you waited a fraction of a second longer than maybe you would have a couple of years ago, and maybe a lot of other players would make. How do you see the floor, and how does that help you make those passes at the right time?
Yeah, a huge thing, as a passer is waiting for things to develop. There's always action, there's always movement, and sometimes things just take longer to open up. And so, there was times like one of the passes I made to Weezy along the baseline. I knew like the whole time he was going to be open. I just had to wait because I just thought like at first, if I threw a lob pass that Mashburn might have been able to get there, or Robbins would have been able to get there. And so I kind of just had to wait. And Coach Diller always says, like, wait a moment for the right moment. And so that's kind of like something, I feel like I try to do, just, let plays develop, because, the guys are going to keep working. People are cut, Weezy, CJ, great cutters, they're always moving around, and Luca's always going to be fighting for better post position. So the more I can wait and, read what's going to happen, the more people are going to be open, the better shots, be able to get them.
Mark Emmert.
Yeah, Connor, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about Jordan. First of all, do you remember the first time you ever played in a game against him, and what did you think of him?
The first time I ever played Jordan, we were actually on the same team, I believe. And it was with Barnstormers in like 6th grade. And back then he was still confident, a shooter. He'd pull up and transition, shoot threes, even when we were younger. And he was somebody who, we played in the backcourt together, I believe it. I could be mistaken, but I think we're in Vegas playing, and I just remember, us together were the backcourt, and it was just a fun time, and I felt like we played well together, and I think we still do.
Did you like him?
Yeah, I mean, I liked him. I was playing up, so like I didn't really know him that well. I didn't really know any of them, but I mean, they were always nice to me, and it was a good group playing. And then as we grew up, obviously we all kind of knew each other. We never really hung out, but we all knew of each other, played against each other, and had a relationship of respect, and also competitive nature that we carried against each other.
And is this the best stretch of his play that you ever seen him have, these last 4 games? And if so, why?
I would say like these last 4, but I would also have to say like the stretch 2 years ago he had when he hit the game winner and then beat Indiana by himself twice and beat somebody else. It was like 5 in a row. He just hit big shot after big shot. It would be between these two. It was just been, it's fun to see when he's open like this, and it just creates a whole nother level to our offense. It brings another aspect of the teams. It's hard to game plan against.
David Eichel, go ahead.
Yeah, Connor, 2 questions for you. One, what did you think of Kenyon Murray's nickname for you that he tweeted to you? I think it was cashier or something like that.
Yeah. That was, I mean, I thought it was funny. I never heard that one before, but Kenya, I've known him for a while. Like he's always coached against us, and I got a kick out of it. I thought it was funny. I feel like you can't really embrace any nicknames for yourself. I feel like that's kind of weird. But if people start calling me that, I'll definitely wear that one.
And on a more serious kind of note, it was kind of funny to me at the beginning of the season when Jordan, went through his struggles. People were citing that maybe it's because too much attention was being paid to his podcast or anything like that. And I guess, for Jordan, it feels like part of his mental health, he gets to release himself within the podcast. And with all the uncertainty this season, do you have any comments about just what it's like to be a student athlete and just kind of maintaining your mental health throughout the pandemic and all this other stuff? And do you think that there's a very big misconception when it comes to the public about it can't always be basketball? There needs to be like some release that you have.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point you make. It's this entire season so far it's been tough in the sense that, when everybody else came back to school, it's like they were still able to do stuff with friends, in groups, and whether or not they were supposed to, like, go out to eat, go to restaurants, stuff like that. We have not really done that. We've kind of been keeping to ourselves with each other. We're not going out to eat. We're not, going to, hang out in huge groups. We're not going to parties. We're not doing any of that. That's kind of been our thing this entire year. And I think, like you said, with Jordan being able to release himself a little bit within that podcast, I think we all have kind of needed to find something that we do together that's fun and can, just get away from the game, whether it's, Fortnite or any type of video game, watching Netflix, hanging out with each other, playing a game, anything that kind of gets your mind off of basketball and just gets you to relax is important, because through a grueling season, there's a lot of pressure that can be put on by, fans, just people, around the program, surrounding the league, whatever. And so, having an outlet
as a player on the team, it's really important. And I think that, you know, Jordan having this podcast, people saying like, you know, too much focus on that. No, that's not a thing. I think everybody needs something that they can go to during a season, especially when we're not getting out and being able to, you know, do things with other people. You know, everybody's going to need something.
Okay, time for a couple more here. Tom Kakert.
Connor, you seem like a kind of a natural to get into coaching. We asked the head coach earlier if perhaps you would get into coaching, and he said Connor's mother might object to it. Have you had discussions with mom about this? Has she objected?
She's definitely objective, I would say. She's not a huge fan of the idea. And that's kind of been like, I feel like that's why she's always put such a stress on my schoolwork, so that I didn't have to get into coaching. But I don't know. I mean, if it's something I want to do, she'll support me. It's just kind of, I feel like it's kind of like a running joke at this point, just of her saying like, no, you're not doing it. It brings too much stress to me. It would bring too much stress to your future wife, you know, that kind of thing. But, you know, I think that she would definitely be supportive if it ended up being something I would want to do.
All right, and our final question from Scott Docterman. Go ahead, Scott.
I wanted to ask you about your self-awareness, because to have a team like this, you have to have selfless people who know their roles and take them to the highest level possible. And that could be Luca Garza scoring 1,000 points a game, or whatever, but also you getting 10 assists and no turnovers, but maybe only taking a couple of shots. Was that a difficult transition at all for you to not be the key scorer, but to be the key facilitator? Or is that something that you just saw naturally, organically through your game?
I think that's a good question. I think it's something that did kind of come naturally, because as I kind of alluded to earlier, I've always been someone who tries to make the right play. And when I'm playing with the people that I have around me, it just makes my job easier. And I think that when you step into a role, every team needs roles. Every championship team needs roles, and you need to play within your role, or else chemistry will be broken and things break down. And so, you know, me being somebody who knows, you know, I'm not going to come into a game and shoot 15 shots. You know, I'm just not. That's not my thing. But I'll try to get Weezy 15 shots. I'll try to get Luca 15 shots. You know, that's the way that I need to play, and that's my role. And you know I'm not going to turn the ball over. I got to make smart plays on the offensive and defensive end. I got to know where I got to go at all times. You know, I'm not going to get in the way of somebody else, and, you know, read defenses. You know, if they're playing Luca in the front, you know, flash every time. You know, there's just automatic things that I need to be able to do, that role players need to be able to do to make really good offenses work. And, you know, I think that, you know, LeBron said it best. He said, if you don't want to roll, you know, play tennis or play golf. You know, that's like that. Those are pretty much going to be your sports. You know, every team needs role players, and you know, I've kind of tried to embrace that, and I think we have a lot of other guys that have done the same, and that's what makes our offense flow, and it's what makes us, you know, our team chemistry so great.
Seems like you have no problem sticking up for your teammates as well. I mean, you will get in somebody's face if they do something to one of your teammates.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you know, it'll never be. You know, I'm never like going to try to start anything, but, you know, none of us on our team, nobody's backing down either. You know, that's never going to be something that we're about. You know, if anybody wants to start something, you know, we're all right there for each other. It'd be the same if somebody came at me. I have no doubt that, you know, Luca, CJ, anybody would come and step right to them with my back, as I would do for them. And that's kind of got to be, I feel like with all great teams, you need that type of attitude. You need guys that are going to step up for each other and always, you know, have each other's back. And if you get into something, you know that as well.
All right. Thanks, Connor. Thanks, everyone.
Right.
Appreciate
Thank
your time today.